advisors and fellow book running lead managers to this IPO. I thank you for coming to this important milestone event of the company. Before we start, just to summarize the key issue details, the price band for the IPO is Rs 938 to Rs 988 per equity share of value Rs 2 each. The issue opens for subscription on August 24th, Monday, and closes on August 27th, Thursday. The issue is a combination of fresh issue of 150 crores and an offer of sale of about 1,607 crores. The market cap of the company at the top end of the price band would be about 6,350 crores. It is my pleasure to introduce the management team today to walk us through the opportunity and details of the company. Please welcome Mr. Anil Satwani, CEO and Managing Director and Promoter, Krishna Satwani, Head of BD Injectables, Mr. Raghavendra Ramchandran, the Chief Financial Officer of the company, Shubham Sabu, General Manager Finance, and Mr. Kapil Mishra, Head of Strategy. Over to you.
Yeah, namaste. Good morning. I'm Anil Satwani. I'm the founder and managing director at Symbiotec Pharmalab. Thank you for hosting us here today. I'd like to give you context on Symbiotec Pharmalab, our journey, what we have done in the past, and what we currently do, and what we intend to do in the future. Symbiotec essentially is an R&D-driven pharmaceutical and biotechnology company where we have achieved the global leadership in a niche space of steroids and hormones API. And we are working at the intersection of two sciences mainly, one the organic chemistry and two the biotech related fermentation technology. With the help of these two technological advancement, we have been able to achieve our global leadership in steroid hormones APIs. And of course, using the R&D and our technology strength, we now intend to create two different growth engines, one the forward integration side of complex injectables and two the fermentation-based CDMO activities. These are the two new growth engines that we'll also talk about. And needless to say that we have built very high quality and maintained very high quality manufacturing platforms with significant operational discipline, backed up by over 2 decades of regulatory compliance across all the regulatory authorities of the world. So regulatory compliance is the table stakes for this business. Before we talk about our future growth engines, let me just take a step back and give you context of how this business got into in existence and how we have moved from our initial days to where we are today. Of course, I'm a graduate in chemistry and postgraduate in economics and management, and I straight away dived into my own business back in '94, where I was brought an attention to a steroid molecule back then, which was an import product, and looking at sensing this import substitute possibility, I had an opportunity to team up with one of my mentors in chemistry, a PhD in organic chemistry, and we together over a period of almost 2 years kind of built a semi-novel chemistry to synthesize the steroid molecule and bring in a laboratory scale production of its kind, first time ever in India, a steroid molecule. All these steroids were imported back then from America, Europe and China. And we just took a step into this steroid manufacturing in '94, '95. And it all started with a backyard of my father's clinic. He's a doctor, and I looked at him and I said, for my quick and dirty experiments, I want to take your one of the rooms in the clinic. And he hesitantly, of course, approved it, but that proved to be very auspicious. And when the chemistry started looking good, we got into a very mediocre non-GMP laboratory setup. We were producing 1 kilo of that steroid molecule every day, and it took us good 7-8 years to get into the mainstream pharmaceutical companies within India. But only when some of the MNCs rejected our laboratory setup, I decided to basically come up with a first ever industrial scale steroid GMP plant. And thanks to State Bank of India as a great institution who helped me at a crucial time when we were only a 3 crore company in 2003, and how they handed over a 5 crore of a facility, an exposure on Symbiotec. So I think that's one bank that I look back and really have a tremendous respect for. They have the risk-taking appetite. They are an institution which has built companies like us. Having said that, once we had this support from SBI, we got into a first ever industrial scale GMP manufacturing facility of steroid and hormones from central India, and of course our place where we belong to. And again, it took us a few years before we had a very defining moment in our life. There comes one big Indian pharma company, a large, which showed interest in acquiring 51%, the majority stake of Symbiotec. And I said, oh my God, it looks like I've arrived. We have something that the world has started looking into, right? But of course, I was not willing to give up on my entrepreneurial journey so early in my life, so I refused that. And here comes the entry of some private equity, the HNI, my good old friend, late Rakesh Jhunjhunwala ji, who invested in our company in 2006, somewhere at that time. And first time I met him, and he had put a check in my pocket. So that's the, this intuitive sense that these investors have. But having said that, I also needed capital to build a larger facilities which will look beyond supplies to India and to more regulated markets. And we helped build with this capital some additional capacities. And it's only in 2008 when another defining moment happened in our life. There comes Beijing Olympics, and since we were importing some of the advanced intermediates still from China, a little bit from America, but more from China for the price reasons. And because some of the steroid intermediate can potentially be misused for anabolic uses, there was a temporary exports ban by the Chinese government. And my plant literally was on shutdown mode for 3 to 4 months, and I did not enjoy that sensitivity, and I realized that maybe we are puppets in the hands of Chinese. And what I think my country is going through now, self-reliance, I sensed this through this situation in 2008 itself, and I decided decisively that I will backward integrate, and whatever they can do, we can do, right? And little I realized that in this backward integration of steroids synthesis, there was a significant involvement of fermentation as a biotech science. And please remember that until then we were an organic chemistry company, and we had no idea of the fermentation biotech side of the business. And because we as an enterprising people will, once we have decided, we would definitely take decisive steps and go all into it. And I went ahead and hired, to begin with, one of the top 10 biotechnologists of that time, Dr. Raina, who was incidentally working on the human insulin, but I convinced him to come and be part of the Symbiotec story, self-reliant India on its life-saving drugs called steroids category, and somehow brought into my story. He came in, he set up my first microbiology lab, eventually our pilot plants of 5,000 liter fermentation facility, and eventually the commercial scale of 50,000 liter fermenters. But it took us a good 7 to 8 years before we could understand, refine and define this technology science and bring our technologies closer to the Chinese competitiveness, right? I remember because in 2008 when this Beijing Olympic thing happened, I went to Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's office and I said, Rakesh ji, मैं कोई Chinese company है, acquire करना चाहता हूँ, because ये fermentation है, अपने को आता नहीं है. So let me go and do this, and we'll quickly, in a year or two, we'll be a fully backward integrated. And he only taught me one lesson, that Anil, please appreciate that China is a one-way street. You put money in, but you never get the money back. Now, of course, you do what you do as a promoter, right? But I think I took a clue from him, and I said, if I really want to build a long-term platform, I must develop and understand these technologies on my own, right? And we decided not to invest in China actually, but it took a longer route. And 7-8 years of a constant, relentless understanding, learning of this process and capital infusion. Not only Rakesh came in 2006-07, but later on we had institutions like Franklin Templeton. I was lucky in many ways to have these big institutions also coming and becoming part of this vision and mission. And I have built on this capital and global capacities. Only in 2014-15 we were able to come up with something where we could say that now we can head-on compete with China. And what does this backward integration actually mean for us? It actually meant that now we can start from a farm source, plant source called soybean-derived sterols. And this becomes a building block for us. And we do now a series of fermentation and series of demanding chemistry steps to reach to therapeutically active APIs called steroid and hormones, which in many ways are life-saving drugs. So now we have the destiny in our control. We are no more dependent on one vendor, one country, right? So we could write our own script. But having said that, this also meant that now we have created a position called make versus buy. We can make, of course, given a possibility, we can always buy for whatever reasons, right? Regulatory reasons, capacity reasons, commercial reasons. So when we built this make versus buy situation, we actually then went ahead and presented our company to most of the big global accounts in the Western world, Europe and America, that look, of course we had the US FDA approvals and EU GMP approvals and every other country approvals by then, 2014-15. I think we had first FDA inspection in 2008. So it's been 18 years we've been into this long track record of clean compliance, right, across all our sites. So we presented our company to these global accounts that, look, we have the Western standards in terms of regulatory compliance. We are no less than any other company, and look at our compliance record. At the same time, we have the Asian cost, not just India, but China. So it's not a one geography dependency. If there's China, there's always India. If there's no India, there's always China. So with this hybrid model that we are best in class, having the compliance standards which are matching the Western standards, and having the cost advantage which is Asian. So with this proposition and hybrid approach, we could win global accounts which otherwise take several years to get into. And today I'm happy to present that we are working with over 200 customers globally. We're exporting to more than 40 plus countries, and we have 50 US TMFs that we have filed. We have 25 CPs with Europe that we have filed, and we're still counting. And here we are with our so-called niche global leadership in steroid and hormones. But then at some point of time you have to ask what next. Now the question is simple, two-worded, what next, but the answer could always be complex, right? But we knew that we have played the R&D technology and innovation card always, right? At the core, at the roots of our success is our science, right? Which of course is spread over chemistry and the fermentation. And we say what next, and we realize that grass is green on the other side. We as an API people, no matter how sophisticated we are, we still occupy only a smaller part of this big pharma value chain, so 2 to 5%, right? But what do we do to enter the higher orbit of this value chain, right? And we asked ourselves a very straight question that, what do we do? And we eventually used some of our, I'm sure my colleagues here would explain you more on the injectable side, but in short, we decided to forward integrate and got into a complex injectable business. And at the same time, we realized that, look, we are an API company and we should not forget our expertise in the API. But between the chemistry and biotechnology, we realized chemistry is not innovating anymore. It has become a very mature science, but it's the biotechnology which holds the potential to move mountains. I can confirm, and I strongly believe that biotechnology is the technology of 21st century. It has the potential to solve some of the most complex problems mankind is facing today, right from environment to agriculture to industrial products to pharmaceuticals and nutraceuticals. And why this? Because there is at the core now in the last decade or so, there is a science which has evolved so much called synthetic biology. That has the potential to solve our problems. And I explained as that as a layman, so that you can understand that this science, what science has discovered, that if there is any enzyme, any protein available in nature, whether in plants or animals or in soil, anywhere, you can actually do the whole genome sequencing and synthesize this enzyme in the laboratory, so we call it synthetic, but then put it in a life called microorganism, maybe an E. coli or any yeast or any fungal strain, right? And then allow this microorganism, this life, to perpetually express this protein in abundance, which may not be present in nature in abundance, right? So we combine the synthetic enzyme into a life called microorganism. Of course, it's easier said than done, but just to give you the perspective, this is how the synthetic biology has evolved in the last 10 years. This science hasn't evolved so much so in India as yet, but I think in Western world, this science has evolved. And this science is now innovating a lot of new products which are otherwise coming from plants and animals and now coming from fermentation. So we're becoming more cleaner, greener, sustainable as our needs grow, not only in pharmaceutical but also in non-pharma space. So we realize fermentation has a tremendous potential, and we are a fermentation company since 2008, right? Why not utilize our competency of fermentation outside steroid and hormones and get into something more valuable in a bigger addressable markets, right? And this is where in 2021 we started building a large-scale fermentation facilities, which again, one of my colleagues on the biotech side would further explain it to you. So two growth engines were decided to get into existence. One, the forward integration side on the complex injectable, and two, the fermentation-based CDMO and product activities. I would leave the mic now with Krishna to just explain you what this Novia, our injectable division, is all about, and later on to Kapil to walk you through our biotech aspirations. Over to you, Krishna.
Okay, thank you. Thank you everyone for being here, and good afternoon. Please allow me to walk you through our forward integration story and why we believe this is one of the most consequential decisions we've taken in the recent times. As Mr. Anil mentioned, as an API company, we've long been aware that we capture a very small percentage, right? It's around 2 to 5% of the total value of the medicines that we help create. And that led us to ask a very fundamental question, which was, how do we use our deep scientific expertise to move upstream and get a larger value share in the medicines that we help create? And when we look back, we said, we've been practicing two sciences which we've mastered over the last 2 decades. One being the sterile lyophilization science, and the other one being the sterility science. These are no ordinary capabilities, might I add. They have a very high barrier to entry, highly regulated, and form a foundation of what we've built today, which is a drug device capability in the form of dual chamber vials, which you see on the screen. And of course, our growth ambitions don't just stop here. We do have incrementally innovative products in our pipeline, including dual chamber bags and dual chamber syringes, which will be coming next. What's unique about this particular platform is that it is a very differentiated device, right? And we would be the only company to be producing these besides the innovator. And especially coming from a company of our size and scale, this means a lot. At the same time, we have a contract in place with one of the large pharmaceutical companies for select regulated markets who would be marketing and distributing this product for us. These are what is called in the market as RTU, which are ready to use and ready to dispense products. And of course, because of the higher sterility assurance that they provide and the convenience at the time of administration, they command a premium. When we were deciding to enter in this space, we did have a question being asked to us that why don't you want to take your own API and put it in a conventional single chamber vial? And even though that is a quick market to enter into, we thought we wanted to do something incrementally innovative and compete with the innovator in this space, and that's how the DCV came into existence. So to summarize, not only are we bringing a better product out in the market, which we're very, very excited to commercialize over the next few years, but we are now leveraging ourselves to move beyond our API legacy as a fully integrated company all the way from farm to pharmacy. With that, I will now pass it on to Kapil for him to share more about our CDMO endeavors.
Yeah, of course, the financials of Novia Injectable will be shortly presented to you by our CFO, but we'd like Kapil to walk you through our biotech initiatives on the large-scale fermentation CDMO.
Hello everyone. Thank you Anilji. As Anilji articulated very well that as a company Symbiotec has been profoundly developing and using the expertise of complex biotech manufacturing for our own product portfolio, where we are at the intersection of chemistry and biotechnology. That's how you produce steroids and hormones. And while we have had US FDA approved plants and facilities and products for last almost 2 decades, we thought of strategically entering into offering this as a service to global players, Indian players as CDMO. And in this, when we entered, we have 2 offerings in CDMO services, 2 buckets of CDMO services that we are offering. So the first one is where we are having therapeutic biologics, which is biosimilars space, where we already have take-or-pay contracts to manufacture products such as insulin, GLP-1 and insulin analogs through our brand new biologics facility available in Ujjain. And while this is a known segment, very well established segment of therapeutic biologics, which are biopharma products for the world, another bucket that is touched upon by Anilji earlier is the industrial biotech space, where it's a strong belief that biotechnology is going to be the technology of this century, and it's going to solve a lot of problems of different industries, nutraceuticals, ingredients, consumers, and obviously biotech products. So in industrial biotech space, where we have already been manufacturing different biotech products at various scales of 5 KL, 5,000 liter, 35 KL, 35,000 liters in our US FDA facility, we have established 100 KL, which is 100,000 liters into 4 reactors in Ujjain. And this facility is already approved by required global regulators. And in this facility, we are serving global industrial biotech players. Those are largely innovation-driven products or processes coming from partners from US, Europe, Japanese market, and such developed markets. And these are very sticky products where we would be working with them as take-or-pay manufacturing partner through our CDMO service offering to them in very long multi-million dollars contracts coming to us, already signed contracts I'm talking about. And in these contracts, there are 2 things happening while this is for Symbiotec. This bio-manufacturing is going to also put India in the global front as bio-manufacturing based economy. Because globally, when Anilji spoke about the requirement of biotech being the science of this century, the world needs a lot of capacity to have fermenters to do complex biotech manufacturing, and it has real shortage of capacity worldwide. If you look at a lot of reports that BCG or McKinsey has published through, world needs around a billion liter capacity in next 10-15 years, and right now it's at around 40 million. So there's a huge gap existing, and that's where when you look at Symbiotec is at the forefront from India offering and harnessing this opportunity available to India, where we already have a 400 KL up and running plant being offered to US and Europe customers who are already with us for a long-term business. And this is just the beginning, because some of these contracts, even at the initial phase, requires us to give captive consumption to our partners at 600 KL scale. That's the initial phase. We should be in a year or so, should be up and running with this particular partner for offering this 600 KL capacity extra to what we already have. And then the third phase also goes up to 1000 KL required for this particular partners. And all of these partners where we go and meet them and speak about, because this is going to different sort of industries in industrial biotech space, the requirement runs into hundreds and thousands of liters for a single customer. So that is the space where in industrial biotech segment, India has the advantage of being at unit economics favorable to these partners, and these come from patent protected space. So obviously safeguarding the intellectual property for these partners is very important, and that is where China plus one or Europe plus one angle also plays very well, because intellectual protection, property protection is very critical for these partners, and India again becomes a partner of choice as a country, and Symbiotec is at the forefront because we are probably the one who is already offering a very large scale 400K up and running facility, and backed by manufacturing expertise in biotechnology as CDMO player of last 20 years. So I think with this profound expertise of ourselves being complex biotech manufacturing, R&D driven biotech manufacturing for ourselves, and now offering it as a service to CDMO for global partners, again these are already existing partner customers, I think this is going to be a very strong pillar of growth for Symbiotec in coming years for our growth. Thank you.
Yeah, just before I hand over to my other colleagues, just wanted to bring to attention that both our models, the partnership-based models, one for Novia, the complex injectable, another for biotechnology, actually have a very unique structure to it. One of course is that whenever we choose partners, they of course have a complementary strength in terms of their distribution ability in the advanced market or other markets, but at the same time we compel them to actually come and invest in our facilities, because we do not want our CDMO offerings to become kind of a revolving door where they use it for a few months and then leave the space, and we constantly look for new customers like perpetual circle. No, we wanted them to put investment in. So both our partners, one from the injectable side, have put tens of millions of dollars as an investment in our facility. So and also similar for the biotechnology, when these customers come, we do not want to take 100% risk, right? Besides our capex, we make ensure that they also put the capex, right? So they of course have the front-ending ability, and at the same time they're putting the capital. So we serve actually two purposes, or rather three purposes. One, of course, we get their complementary strength, which is distribution strength, and we also de-risk our projects from the capital point of view to that extent, right? And it becomes then a very sticky businesses, perpetual or 10 years or 5 years take or pay agreements, because they have invested in our facility, they cannot simply walk away. So the partnership model is very uniquely structured at Symbiotec, and this is being more or less applied in both growth engines that we are talking about, our injectables. So that's something unique about our partnership, and you expect these these binding take or pay contracts running for 5 years, 10 years, and in injectable actually is perpetual. So over to Shubham, he will also walk you through some of the other interesting facts of Symbio.
Thank you, sir. This slide highlights the scale and depth of the manufacturing facility that Symbiotec has created over the last 2 decades. What we have established today is 4 facilities located in and around Indore, one of the country's leading pharmaceutical manufacturing hub. 2 of these facilities, Rao and SEZ Pithampur, are approved by various global authorities including US and Europe, marking the base for our steroids and hormones API business. Over the past 4 years, we have also invested about 870 crores in setting up 2 new state-of-the-art facilities, one for the injectable business, the other one for the large-scale fermentation-based manufacturing. Mind this, the 870 crore investment that we have done over the last 4 years is actually much higher than what we had invested in the preceding 18 years. What we have also done is, today we have got 585 million metric tons of capacity on the chemical synthesis side. Now we have 700,000 liters of capacity on the fermentation side of the business. Also we have got annually 20 million vials as the capacity.
Good afternoon. A quick snapshot on the financials. Growth has been quite healthy over the last few years. What you need to understand is these numbers are largely coming today from the steroids and hormones API business. The 2 new businesses, the complex injectable and the CDMO business, where we have put in more than 800 crores of capex over the last 5 years, have not yet started generating revenues. Revenues from this segment, new segments, will only start from next financial year. So all the financials what we are right now looking at is largely from the core business, which is the API, steroids and hormones business. So while we have seen a healthy growth rate in the top line over the last couple of years, more importantly, we've seen a very strong improvement in profitability, both on the gross margins as well as on the EBITDA. Our gross margins improved from 55% to 64% on the back of a good favorable product mix as well as geography mix. So our exposure to regulated markets has been improving steadily over the last several years, and our pricing and as well as the margins from these markets are much more favorable compared to the local market. So that's been the core why our gross margins have increased over the last couple of years. In addition to this, operating leverage has been playing out with the growth in the revenue, and that has also helped us improve the EBITDA numbers. More on the capital efficiency, what we've been looking at 25-26% as ROCs over the last few years has steadily been improving and now is close to 30%, and that shows how effectively we are able to sweat our assets to generate revenues. I just want to clarify on the PAT where the growth is a little subdued compared to the revenue and operational EBITDA growth is the 800 crores of capex which we have been investing over the last several years from a depreciation standpoint, from a tax standpoint, have a certain accounting impact which of course has suppressed the PAT numbers over the last few years. But as we move forward with the new businesses kicking in over the next several years, the PAT growth is expected to be much faster than the overall business growth. Lastly, on the net debt number, while I did talk about 800 crores of capex which we have put in over the last several years, a good part of this has been funded by internal accruals and partly by debt. And as we speak, the net debt roughly stands about 380 crores, and with the IPO proceeds of roughly 150 crores as primary, we expect this net debt to go down even further. Lastly, I'll quickly summarize on the levers of growth for the next several years. While my colleagues did talk about various initiatives and investments, let me summarize point by point what are our levers of growth. On our base business, core business, we have leadership position which we have built over the more than 2 decades. We will continue to expand both our portfolio and continue to penetrate newer markets and establish a mature growth in this part of the business. Second is our capability on fermentation biotech science, which over the last several years we've been practicing it as a backward manufacturing science. Now we are adding capacities through the new initiatives, and through these new capacities and new product offerings, we further expect our growth to get augmented. Thirdly, we are investing significantly in our 2 new business segments, both CDMO and injectable, and that will of course drive growth. And the good part is we already have contracts in place to deliver this growth. So the only thing which is left is execution, which over the next several years we expect the revenues to come through. And lastly, R&D, we've been spending significant amount compared to the industry standards, about 4 to 5% in R&D. And we believe, and in the last several years, this has been helping us deliver growth on the steroids and hormones business. And with this, we are also coming out with newer product offerings in the fermentation space as well as in the injectable space. And this will continue to remain a focus, and 4 to 5% of R&D spend is something we will continue to invest. And lastly, before I conclude, I think Anil did talk about the kind of contracts and partnerships we have in both these new business segments, and that shows our ability not just to partner and get these contracts, but also to de-risk our capital and leverage their market presence and market strength to improve our overall growth potential. With this, I conclude the presentation. We are open for Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, just to summarize that, look, the success DNA of Symbiotec has been on the three fronts. One, the cutting edge technology that we have so much believed in and invested in. And two is this global scale that we have created in manufacturing. And three, of course, the regulatory compliance, which is the table stakes in this business. So using this DNA, we are now trying to plant into new, higher addressable market opportunities. Remember the steroid hormone opportunities as an addressable opportunity over $1 billion. But now we are talking about multi-billion dollars opportunity, one on the complex injectable, two on the industrial biotech as a CDMO offering. So same DNA being planted into higher addressable market opportunities, and based on this we continue to believe that we will create a significant value for all our shareholders. Thank you very much. Open for now Q&As.
Mr. Anil Satwan, your story
Yes.
was very interesting. How it all started from molecule and
As a typical garage story,
garage story was
मुझे भी नहीं पता है कि कैसे हो गया. अभी मुझे कोई कहे कि फिर से शुरू करो ये कहानी, तो सच में मैं नहीं शुरू कर पाऊंगा. I think it's not about, of course, their efforts are very genuine, very unilateral, very focused, sharp. However, there must be some universal forces, working in our favor. प्रभु कुछ चाहता होगा हमसे कराना कि अपने देश के लिए क्या करना है, right? Because at some point of time, it's not the financial security anymore that we look for as enterprising people. I had my children in the US and I had to convince them to come back and serve your own country. मेरे दोनों बच्चे, एक कृष्णा यहाँ है, दूसरा नहीं आ पाया है. मैंने कहा आप अमेरिका में दो लोग कम होंगे, अमेरिकन सोसाइटी का कुछ नहीं जाएगा, लेकिन आप दो एंटरप्राइजिंग लोग इंडिया में आ गए, इंडिया का बहुत कुछ हो जाएगा. Today we are a country looking for employment opportunities. We have to go back and find our lost glory. We were the world leaders 1,000 years ago. We are nobody today. We have to be reckoning force. I work for a social cause, trust me. Of course, P&L, profit is at the heart of the business, because without these consistent profits, you will never be sustainable in your efforts, right? So we continue to look for profit, but at the very core of our business operations is service at large. I want to serve my country. I want to be proud of this country, and I understand the biggest challenge that our country is facing today. We have millions of students getting graduated every year, and if we don't hand over them a good job, we will not take them in the right direction. They will go into different directions, which is antisocial. It's not only Prime Minister, it's just every enterprising person sitting here today has to realize this and put his best foot forward. And I'm doing this business with that same social intent. Trust me. So because this is an intent, I believe there are universal forces working in our favor.
So, adding to what you have said, it was quite impressive. What is your, working force? What does it comprise of? I want to learn more about these professionals, experts which you have.
You are asking about what's the workforce?
Yes.
Total workforce.
Yes.
You're talking about how many people?
Yes, and you must be having all experts of various.
Oh, yes. As you see, we work across three different sciences, right? So there are three different verticals, and of course within vertical there will be sub-verticals. For an example, now in fermentation is not just one vertical now, it is actually into three verticals. One, the biologics vertical, which is now headed by subject matter experts in biologics, and then we have a biomanufacturing vertical headed by another biotech experts. And on the injectable, we have a different company, different project engineers, different R&D scientists, because the formulation science is very different from the API science. So the ecosystem that we have to create is very different on the injectable side. And then the running API business, it's run by different BD experts, run by different chemistry doctors. And
So a total of how many people?
so we have over 2,000 people today, full time, and there will be some contract people. But in R&D, we have over 150 people working, and this is expanding as we move further into synthetic biology, which I just talked about. We are looking at more than 200 people in the coming few years. So our focus on the technology, R&D project, it's just not the technology, it's also the engineering.
Budget is slightly less, don't you think?
Sorry, which?
It's very small, 4 to 5%.
Look, we are not a brand innovation company like Pfizer, Novartis, Eli Lilly, right? We have limited margins as a complex generics company, right? So it's only we can afford to burn it, because you see, whenever you spend in R&D, it's never guaranteed, right? It's a write-off. As part of our accounting standard, we never capitalize any R&D expense. We just put through and it's written off in the P&L. So we have to, as part of the fiscal discipline, we have to ensure that the amount that we can write off. So today, with 60-65% gross margin or close to 30% EBITDA margin, I can only afford 5% as an R&D expense. Now, of course, tomorrow when we go into this more complex offerings of injectable and our gross margins go up, I don't want to make a forward-looking statement, I'm not supposed to, but hypothetically, if we move closer to 70-80% gross margins, of course, our ability to then put more than 5% closer to 10% R&D will come. So this is a function of what is your profitability and how much can you afford to put in the R&D. So I think there is a fiscal discipline.
My last question is 2 challenges, just in one sentence. How 2 biggest challenges that you are facing as a company?
Regulatory compliance is something which is, as I said, the table stake. That's one serious challenge, and we have always lived with this challenge successfully from the last 18 years. Why should we not live for the rest of our life? But definitely in a pharmaceutical regulated market driven businesses, compliance is a table stake. So that's the biggest risk I look at.
And the second one?
Second one, I think, is technological breakthroughs, because relentless pursuit of new differentiated technology platforms. And just to tell you, we have been successfully able to develop this very differentiated drug device combination on the vial side, and very soon we are going to come with drug device combination of dual chamber bags. Similarly, the biotechnology, I think India is not yet at the cusp of synthetic biology breakthroughs. Western world is, and my quest is to bring the synthetic biology to India. It might take another few years, but that's another risk. What if we are not able to do so, right? So technological breakthroughs year on year and regulatory compliance are the 2 risks that I look at it. But we have successfully navigated in the past. Why should we not believe in the continuity?
Thank you.